My name is Victoria Lynn. I am the co-founder and director of operations and the legal counsel of Barnabas Robotics.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about your career background and how you got started, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, I got started in my career as a attorney. So I'm an attorney by trade, and my background's actually in civil litigation, specifically employment law. So basically, I defended companies in lawsuits brought by employees, and I also counseled employers in how to improve their employment practices to create better work environments for employees. So I did that for about 6 years. And during that time, my husband and I actually started our company together called Barnabas Robotics, which is an educational resource company that teaches science, engineering, character building skills through the process of building a robot.
That's awesome. And you said your title there, but tell me a little bit about like your day to day at
So
Barnabas.
day to day, we run a company. So my husband is the CEO of the company, and he also is the lead instructor for our staff and for our entire educational program. And someone needs to hold down the fort, basically. And so that's my job in being the director of operations. And we're a really small company. We have about 10 to 11 employees right now. And so there's just a lot of things going on, a lot of classes that we're teaching. We have about 300 students in a given semester. So there's just a lot of coordination with schools and with sites and with parents one-on-one too, that I help deal with. And my legal background comes in handy because I was in employment law. So I have a background in human resources and just structuring our company so that we can grow, take on more staff. And also I review contracts and agreements with other partners and vendors that we may come in contact with.
Cool. Can you talk a little bit about the mission of Barnabas Robotics?
Yeah, thanks for asking about that, actually. We're definitely a missional company. Some people might refer to us as a social venture. We are educational, which in and of itself is a mission of ours to promote education and promote access to education. We service all different types of communities and schools, including homeschools, people who have chosen to take their children out of a traditional school program to have a more customized education. And so we really see education as something holistic, something where education's happening in the home too. And a lot of times what we want to educate our kids about in schools or outside of school, it's an extension of what's already being taught in the home. So we just want to be a part of that movement. And what we do is we actually develop curriculum, unique robotics and STEM curriculum for parents and for teachers to be able to teach robotics and to teach science and math and engineering skills. But one thing that we feel very passionately about is that in education, it's not just about the technical knowledge, it's also about the person. So a lot of our curriculum is focused on what is it about this student or this child that makes them unique? And how do we use robotics to really show and demonstrate to kids the process of how we are constantly growing, and there are things that in our lives we need to work on, and robotics is actually a very interesting platform to be able to teach that to kids. For example, if you want to teach a child about perseverance and patience, but they also have a really hard time with something that is hard, like robotics, like getting a screw to fit in a little hole. And a lot of kids, they want to quit and they want to give up. And so we tell them in the beginning of class that there are things that are going to be hard in this class, just like there's things that are going to be hard in life. So we're really teaching life skills and life lessons through our robotics curriculum, in addition to the technical stuff.
That's so great. It's such a unique approach to robotics.
Thanks.
Kind of taking a shift here. What has been your experience being a woman, either in your career background or now working in a STEM field as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Being a woman in business definitely has, its pros and cons, just like everything in life. And being a man in business, same thing. I'm sure pros and cons. I think there are definitely challenges to being a woman in the workplace that are unique to women. When I was practicing in a big law firm, definitely you could see the differences between women and men and how they climbed that corporate ladder, if you will. One of the big things is mentorship, networking and mentorship. There's certain things that are challenging for women just because there aren't as many female executives or female partners at the law firm that you can actually, that'll take you under their wing. For various reasons. It could be that some of the female partners, they have family responsibilities at home right after work. Nobody's going to hang around for a happy hour and get to know you. And that's what I saw. And one of the things that it wasn't that it was discouraging per se. I think it's also a sign of the times that we're kind of coming out of this more traditional gender role type of generation. And our generation might be the leaders to really be those mentors for the younger women who are up and coming in our respective industries. In terms of networking, that's definitely, and I know we've talked about networking just as, a part of business, and same type of thing that sometimes it can be really challenging in kind of macho environments, networking, and also kind of prompting those follow-up conversations and meetings just to be able to connect. But in more recent years, I've really been encouraged by meeting other female founders and female entrepreneurs who actually really desire to build community within the business field. And I think because they feel the lack of that community and they want to build it. So there's definitely, I think it's a shifting of the times in that respect. But otherwise, I think in business and in law, where I came from, being a woman in the workplace, it's we need more women who are going to be leaders and just pioneers in taking initiative to create things that are specific for women, carved out for women, and also give women the opportunity to be able to excel and thrive in those environments.
That's awesome. I think that's a really refreshing take on it, that it's sort of it's our time now, right? Like the torch has been handed to us to pass it on to future generations.
For sure.
And I guess in that same vein, do you have any female role models, either dead or alive, that you look up to?
Yeah, I'm not really a role model person. I think it was just kind of the way I was brought up, like in an immigrant household. I think it wasn't necessarily something that I was encouraged to have role models, but definitely there's women in history and alive right now who have inspired me. Somebody who comes to mind is Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg of the U.S. Supreme Court. And I know she's having her moment, in pop culture right now too, with, books and movies about her life and about her work. And one of the things about Justice Ginsburg is that she, regardless of what your political beliefs are, you have to give her credit for paving the way, for women and for promoting women and basically providing equal protection for women in the workplace. And specifically for myself as an employment lawyer, Justice Ginsburg, when she first started out as a lawyer, she had actually brought some very impactful litigation that to today, when we look back on some of the benefits and the rights that women have in the workplace, it's actually credited to some of those cases that were actually brought before the Supreme Court. And, what an amazing thing for us to be able to celebrate in, Women's History Month.
That's cool. She's a really awesome woman to share, and like very relevant to your experience. So cool. Let's see. Is there anything else I should have asked that you would like the world to know about you or Barnabas Robotics?
That's a really good question. I think, you don't need to ask me this, but I think that there's something, like maybe some advice for girls, or for young women, kind of just coming up wherever they're coming from, right? It could be that they're in school, like elementary school. And we deal with little ones. We teach all the way up, down to kindergarten. So we see these little girls come through our classes, and, then they become teenagers, and then they blossom into young women, and then they enter the workforce. And I think there's just something, for me recently, in kind of jumping ship from like a traditional legal industry into something totally different and being an entrepreneur. Part of it is just get to know yourself and get to love yourself. I think sometimes the world and what we're taught doesn't encourage women to do that. We're self-critical, we strive for perfectionism, and we're trying to fit a mold too, I think, and who is it that set that mold? So I think that's part of just the process of getting to know yourself and getting to, identify the things that some of your strengths and some of your weaknesses that you might want to work on too, and never stop growing in that pursuit. Yeah, so.
That's great advice that we all need to be reminded of.
Yes, man or woman. I was just thinking back about, a message that maybe isn't being taught. We're talking about all these things about, female empowerment and rising up as women leaders in our industries. And I think it starts from even further back than that. And we're trying to really instill that in both young girls and young boys, at a very young age, that we see at Barnabas Robotics, our mission as really inspiring young kids and helping them find their voice. So I think part of finding your voice is getting to know yourself and hearing that voice and recognizing that voice and acknowledging you have a voice.
Yeah, that's great. That's beautiful.
Oh, good.
Where can people find you?
So you can find me just all over Los Angeles, because I'm kind of a nomadic worker. And so specifically, you'll probably find me in Pasadena, because that's where we live and work. And online, you can find us at barnabasrobotics.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Vicky. This was awesome. Great to hear from you and learn from you. And yeah, thank you.
It was a pleasure.